Great. So welcome to our free BDA, FM and AFM class. The concept we're going to discuss here is loan amortization schedule. Good. So I want us to look at two questions. Number one, we'll be looking at the BDA August 2022 question number 2024 question number 22. We'll be looking at financial modeling and data analytics. That is now for the CFA team. April 2024 question number 22. Then we now get to see this in the automated sheet that you can even use in a company. So I believe you are able to see this particular question. You also have it from your side. You also have it from your side. Good. So let's read the question and see what is required. We are being told here that Manoti Were has recently been thinking of buying his dream car a few years after joining Rafiki Circle. Having established a Mercedes E-Class vehicle would cost between 2.7 million and 3 million. He approached the Circle for a loan of 2 million, with the difference to come from the sale of his current car with a current market resale value of 1 million. The Circle confirmed that Manoti Were qualifies for the loan and were willing to advance him a new loan under the following terms and conditions. So we have the loan amount, 2 million, period of payment in years, we have 5 years here. Repayment frequency, we are given monthly. Annual interest rate, we are given 11%. Then the monthly repayment has been proposed to be 43,485. Additional information, the loan is to be repaid on monthly basis. That's number one, very important. That's now the frequency. The first installment is due at the end of the first month after loan disbursement, right? So basically we are able to see this loan is paid for in arrears. That is, the opening loan balance will attract interest at the end of the month. It is not paid for in advance. No, it is paid for in arrears. Then Manoti Were has approached you for advice as it doesn't understand how the repayment amount and interest on loan are arrived at. So that's what you want to do here today. So we are told, using an appropriate Microsoft Excel function, confirm to Manoti Were that indeed the monthly repayment amount of 43,485 is actually correct. So this one here was proposed by the Circle. The Circle told him, you know what, for us to give you a loan of 2 million, then you'll be paying an installment of 43,485 at the end of every month. So he's wondering, how did you arrive at this 43,485? So that's what I want us to do here together. So number one, for those who are taking financial management or advanced financial management, you are able to do this in class, or you'll be doing it if you've not gotten to that particular point. So what we are required to get here is the installment. That is periodic installment. Periodic installment. So how do we normally get periodic installment? Anyone with an hint on how to get the periodic installment? Anyone with an hint on how to get the periodic installment? So periodic installment, you are told, I believe so, that for us to get periodic installment for this particular loan, we take amount or loan, right? We take loan amount, divide by present value interest factor annuity. We take loan amount, divide by present value interest factor annuity. Now, in this particular class, I want us to get the present value interest factor annuity, that is PVFA. So is there someone who can give us the formula of doing this PVFA? So PVFA is arrived at by taking 1 minus, right? 1 minus, open the bracket, 1 plus n, close the bracket, raised to power negative n, raised to power negative n, raised to power negative n. Then the whole of that we divide by r. The whole of that we divide by r. So this one here will give us PV FA. This one here is the formula of getting present value interest factor annuity. So if you look at our formula, we must understand some of these things. Number one, we must understand N. We must understand R, right? So get to the question and understand. Are we going to do this loan, do the repayment of this loan on monthly basis, on annual basis, on semi-annual basis? So that is what we refer to as frequency. We need to get frequency. We need to get frequency. So can someone give us frequency? Frequency. What is the repayment duration for this particular loan? Is it done on monthly basis? Is it done on weekly basis? Oh, I've seen there's a slight error there. It should be 1 plus r raised to power negative n. Thank you. Good. So let's see frequency. Frequency. How frequent is this loan paid for? Is it on weekly basis? Is it on semi-weekly basis or bi-weekly? Is it on monthly basis? Is it on semi-annual basis? Let's see. Let's see what is done. So additional information number one, we are being told the loan is to be repaid on monthly basis, right? On monthly basis. So our frequency is represented by letter M, that is monthly basis. So what you need to do is, it does not matter whether the loan is being paid for on monthly basis or on weekly basis. What you need to understand is this frequency. So frequency is how many times is this loan paid for in a year, right? It can be monthly, it can be weekly, right? So it can be monthly, it can be annually, it can be semi-annually, it can be semi-annually. Good. Now, whichever frequency you are going to have, what you need to consider is, if it is done on a monthly basis, how many months do we have in a year? We have 1 month in a year. If it is done on annual basis, then it will be once in a year. If it is done on semi-annual basis, then, so this one will be 12 months in a year. Then annually, once in a year. Semi-annually, it will be done twice in a year. So that's what we have as letter M. So when you want to now conform the loan terms to align with this particular frequency, then for the rate, we divide by M. For N or duration, we multiply by N. We multiply by M. So are we able to get now the adjusted based on the loan payment frequency? Are we able to get rate now that it's done on monthly basis? So our frequency as per the question, it is done on monthly. It's done on monthly basis. So are we able to get R, the adjusted rate, the adjusted interest rate? So the adjusted interest rate will be the adjusted interest rate will be the annual rate, which is this. We divide by the frequency. So our frequency being M or monthly, it is done 12 times in a year. Then we have our duration, right? Duration now, that is N. So we said when we are dealing with N, it will be the initial N we multiply by frequency. Our frequency is not changing. We are doing it on a monthly basis. We have 12 months in a year. So if you are told that this loan will be repaid for in 5 years, then we take now the initial years, we multiply by the frequency, which is 12 months in a year, right? So this frequency is affecting rate by, you take initial rate or annual rate divided by M. Then we take initial N multiply by M. So that's what we are having. That's what we are having there. Good. So with that particular information, are we able to get the periodic installment as per what you are doing? Yes, because loan amount, we can now have it here. Loan amount is also available. So loan amount is not affected. It is 2 million. Our loan amount is 2 million, and you can see it is provided up here, the loan amount in shillings. The loan amount in shillings is given as 2 million. Good. So let's go ahead and calculate present value interest factor. And of course, we have the loan amount. So let's come here and calculate present value interest factor annuity. So what have we said about this? The formula is here. So it's equal to 1 minus, close the bracket, 1 plus R. Our R is this one here. We close the bracket, raised to power negative n. So our n is here, right? Our n is here. So we first of all take 1 plus R, close the bracket, raise it to power negative n. So the result that you're going to get there, the result that you'll be getting there, you less 1. Then the entire result, we divide by R. We divide by R. So where is our R? This is the value of R. So that will give us present value interest factor annuity. Good. With that, are we able to get the periodic installment, which is normally called PMT? Are we able to get periodic installment, which is a constant figure? Yes. So let's see if we can get that PMT here. So someone to give us the PMT value. We said our periodic installment is loan amount divided by present value interest factor annuity. Before we get to do it in Excel, before you automate that, someone to give us PMT. PMT is equal to loan divided by PVFA. Yes, somebody? You can give us that to the nearest whole number or even to 2 decimal places, whichever form. Someone. Yes, what are we having here? When you take loan amount divided by PVFA, someone to give us that loan amount divided by PVFA. So we're going to have our loan amount divided by present value interest factor. So that will give us this particular amount, which is the periodic installment. So that's the first thing. That's the first thing that you are required. You should be able to calculate using the manual way, using the manual procedure, right? Using the manual procedure. So now someone who is advanced, someone who is taking business data analytics will not go for all these items. No. Someone who is taking business data analytics, or someone who attended our advanced Excel classes will be able to come here and tell us, you know what, PMT, for me to get PMT, it is very simple. I just say equal to PMT as a function. So when you click on that PMT as a function, the first thing you are required to come up with is the rate. We know our frequency that the loan, we know that the loan is paid on monthly basis. So the rate being in annual basis, we are given annual rate, which is 11%. So I can just say 11% divided by 12, or I have the monthly rate here, comma, I take number of duration. So it's supposed to be paid for how many times? 60 times or 60 months, comma, present value is the loan amount. Present value is the loan amount. Then future value indicates 0. And of course, type. Remember, they said here specifically that this is done This is done at the end of each. This is done at the end. The first installment is due at the end of the first month after loan disbursement. So if it is done at the end of the period, we are going to type 0. If it is done at the beginning of the period, right, it is not done in arrears, then we are going to pick 1. For this case, the question has stated specifically that's supposed to be done at the end of each period. So just pick 0, then you close the bracket. Then you close the bracket. So by doing that, we'll be able to see we have the same figure. We are arriving at the same amount, but of course in negative form. Good. Why are we getting the negative form? Remember, installment is what is being paid. That installment is what you pay. It has got principal amount and the interest amount. So that's why it is indicated in negative form. So for us to eliminate that negative, we just come here and insert a negative immediately after the equal sign. So it will help you to eliminate this negative. It will help you to eliminate that particular negative. Good. What were we required to do by the examiner? The examiner was telling us, you know what? Using an appropriate Microsoft Excel function, confirm to Manoti Were that indeed the monthly repayment amount of 43,485 is actually correct. So we've answered part A of this particular question. We've answered part A of this particular question. We've actually confirmed that the monthly repayment given here is the right amount. Are we together up to that point? Are we together up to that point before we move to the next stage? Are we together up to that point? Are we together up to that point? The meaning of PMT, periodic installment, periodic amount, periodic installment or periodic amount. So in Excel, the function that will help us to get that periodic installment or periodic amount is what we call PMT. The function is called PMT. The function is called PMT. So when you come here, rate, we are given annual rate, but this is done on monthly basis. We divide by the number of months in a year, or we divide by frequency. Number of duration, it is done for 5 years, but every year has got 12 months, comma, present value is the loan amount, future value 0, and it is done in arrears. So if it is done in arrears, then it's at the end of every period, at the end of every month. If we do that, you'll be able to get what was proposed here as the monthly repayment. Please click on the answer. We see the formula. Good. I've actually repeated it. So are you able to see it now? Have you been able to see the formula before we get to the loan schedule? Have you been able to see the formula? Have you been able to see the formula? I believe so. Great. Having done that, are we able to handle part B of the question? We are told, prepare a monthly loan amortization schedule for the above loan for Mr. or for Manoti Were to see how the loan clears by the end of 5 years. Have columns, number 1 for period, monthly repayment, principal, interest, and loan balance. Great. So with that, we'll be able to bring it down here. We should be able to bring it down here. We can bring it down here. So the examiner stated very well that we start with the period. We start with the period. It is done on a monthly basis, and we have 5 years. So this period will go up to 60. This will go up to 60. I'll just come here and indicate 0. I'll just come here and indicate 0. Right? Come here and indicate 0. Then you got O. Right? So once you get to this particular place, you can have 1 there. Do it all the way to 60. Do it all the way to 60 months. Good. So that's what we have as the period. Then from the period column, we go to opening opening balance, opening balance, go to opening balance. From opening balance, we get installment. From opening balance, we get installment. From the installment, so this installment is what we call PMT. PMT. This installment is what we call PMT. Then we get to interest. Get to interest. Then we get what we call principal. Principal amount. From principal paid, we now get what we call closing or ending loan balance, right? So we have closing balance. So closing balance will be the unsettled loan amount. So the first thing we need to do at period 0, at the end of period 0, the loan balance or closing loan balance is what? Is we've actually borrowed. So that's the closing loan balance. Then we come to this period 1. Now, at the beginning of period 1, we refer to that. Installment will be constant, and of course, we have it here. So this PMT will be constant. This PMT will be constant. We refer to this one here. And now that it is constant, we just lock that cell and autofill it to the last part, right? Then opening balance will be referring to that opening balance throughout. So we refer to that, right? We refer to that. About interest. Interest, we have 2 ways. Now that we are advancing, I want us to automate these things. So interest is equal to IPMT. IPMT. So the rate, we are doing it on annual or monthly basis. So the rate will be this one here, which is a constant rate, right? Comma, period, we are getting now interest for period 1. So we refer to this, comma, number of period, we are talking about 60 months, which will be constant throughout, right? Then present value is the loan amount, which is also a constant figure, right? So this is now automation of the procedure, right? Then future value 0. Type, it is done at the end of each period. It is done at the end of each period. Remember, interest, we are paying it. So that's an outflow, and therefore we have to indicate a negative immediately after the equal sign. So that will give us interest for the first month. We do it all the way to the last part. How do we normally get principal? We have 2 ways. Installment has got interest and the principal. So now that we have interest, I just take installment minus interest so that we get principal. Alternatively, we also have a function of calculating this principal. Let's do. So equal to negative PP MT. Rate is this one here, monthly rate, which is a constant figure again, comma, period, we're doing it for period 1. Then number of periods, 60 months, which is a constant thing. Present value is the loan amount, which is also a constant thing. So we lock all of that, comma. Future value 0. And it is done at the end of each period, then we lock that. So by doing that, you can now see we have the principal amount. So we just autofill that to the last part. Good. The next thing we need to understand, the loan amount, the principal loan amount is reduced by the principal, not the installment, not the interest. So I'll come to this part and take opening loan balance minus the principal repaid during the year. So by doing that, you'll be able to see we have the closing loan balance as at the end of period 1 or first month. Do it all the way to the last month. So for us to be able to confirm, that what we have done is actually correct, at the end of the last period, we need to get closing loan balance of 0. So let's go to the last part of our calculation. You can automatically see at the end of 60th month, then you don't owe this particular lender anything in the name of loan. You've actually settled everything. Again, what you need to confirm, if you try to add everything in the principal column, it must add up to the initial, to the amount equivalent to the initial loan amount. When you come to the interest account or column, when you come to the interest account or interest column, come to the interest account or interest column, and you'll be able to see, what we are having here as the ending loan balance. So that's what you are required to get at that particular point. Are we together up to that point as we end the session? Are we together up to that point? 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 Confirm. Repeat once from the period to the end. Have you learned something? Have you learned something? So remember, we are required to complete part B, which we have been able to do. Now, if you look at part C of that particular question, if you look at part C of this question here, you are required to give us now the scenario concept, what if analysis. You are required to come up with the what if analysis concept. That is, what will happen to the loan amount if we decide to set a given interest rate? What will happen to the installment if we decide to change the duration of loan repayment? So what if analysis concept, again, which we covered in advanced Excel, will be a major concept being applied to deal with part C of this particular question. So what you need to understand is just subscribe for the classes, and then you get to learn more of these things. Get to our classes, and then you get to learn more of these particular concepts. Good. So are we together? Before we end the session, are we together? Are we together? For more information, just reach out to these numbers here. For more information about the same concept, about the automated loan schedule, and of course, BDA classes, reach out to these numbers here. So for the first attempt, this is what you need to have or pay for the classes. If you are retaking, and of course you are at CM for the in last sitting, this is what you need to pay. If it is your first time, but you are retaking the unit again, you are not left out. There's some discount. There's some discount. Payment details are provided here, and the numbers are also provided here. So with that, of course, I would like us to stop our session at this point, and then join the classes or contact these particular numbers. So that is it. Thanks for your time, and have a blessed day.